Hi, I'm Joe, and I'm a student of Bhante Candana. Bhante is a wandering monk, and at the moment he doesn't have a permanent home or a monastery. So he depends on the donation and generosity from his students and supporters. So if you find any of his videos helpful or beneficial to you and the people you know, please consider making a donation to him at the link below. Thank you so much and have a good day.
This week we resume our Sutta exploration series with the Pali Suttas. And for this week, I will have us return back to the Anguttara Nikaya, the numerical discourses, with its thousands upon thousands of discourses, suttas, treasure trove of suttas where we see encounters, situations where Lord Buddha teaches various individuals with various questions, but ultimately coming down to one thing: gaining understanding to better make choices, to release oneself from suffering. In one of the discourses, again from the Anguttara Nikaya, that I just finished yesterday translating, in it, Lord Buddha says, if there are not these three things, then the perfectly awakened one, Samma Sambuddha, the Arahant, the Tathagata, does not appear, nor does he teach the Dhamma that shines and illuminates the whole entire world, the remedy to these three things. So if these three things are not there, the Dhamma does not appear, nor does obviously the Arahant. So what are these three things? Birth, aging, and death. These are things that are so universal. And you don't have to be a human being on this planet or any other planet, being born as someone that has this material form to call one's own corporeality, physical reality. You could be from any of the other universes, other types of dimensions, a being from the Deva realms, the animal realm, etc. But one thing's for sure: all these three are universally present in all of these different modes of experiences, states of being, if you will. And the Dhamma is the answer, the antidote to that pain, to that suffering. For that reason, we can also understand how the Dhamma is timeless, because people used to have issues, pain, suffering that arises out of these three core impediments, if you will. Birth. Without birth, there cannot be aging as such. If you were never born, then you wouldn't have to worry about decay, sickness, getting old, and then the third one, dying, or seeing someone you love die or get sick, and you cannot do anything to remedy the situation, to make it go away. So the Dhamma is as relevant today as it was at the time of Lord Buddha when he first spoke it. So it is timeless. What we do with it, that is the main factor here. But the Dhamma as such has not lost its efficacy, its power. Its power of liberating us. But it is just Dhamma, just because it is there. One has to do it. The medicine that a physician, a doctor might give you to alleviate your suffering, your pain, even if you go ahead and get the prescription given to the pharmacist, and the pharmacist gives you that medicine, you can bring it and put it on your counter, on your table, in front of your desk, on your desk. It won't do anything unless you administer it, unless you take it, just like food. And par excellence, here we see the Dhamma with its quality of remedying us from our pain, the pain of ignorance, which is the worst kind of pain. So we've seen all these suttas thus far, and many more to come if this body holds. But ultimately, the point is, can we see how it is all about applying the teachings? Because the Dhamma is the Dhamma, and it always will address these three problems: birth, aging, and death, represented in the form of ignorance, which manifests in so many different ways in our lives. So by using the Dhamma, we can address any aspect, any hurdle, any difficulty, any unpleasant situation, because it all comes from a lack of understanding. That's why this path is all about wisdom, understanding. And once we have the understanding, we would not go ahead and make those same mistakes, because you've graduated. You've gained understanding thanks to your processing of what's happening to you, your experiences. You apply the teachings, and then you see for yourself. You understand. And this path is about understanding, yatha bhutang pajanati, to be able to see how things come to be, how they arise, how they manifest, and our own contribution to the perpetuation of suffering or their elimination. And Lord Buddha taught the Dhamma for their elimination, for the elimination of suffering. So approaching it from that premise, approaching the sutta, today's sutta, which comes from the Anguttara Nikaya, as I mentioned, the numerical discourses, from the Book of the Tens, Dasaka Nipata. It is sutta number 10.53, Ṭhiti Sutta. I translate it as becoming stuck, being in a limbo, or idling away. You're not moving forward, you're not moving backwards, you're just there. That's another way of defining Ṭhiti Sutta, or Ṭhiti. So let us begin. Bhikkhus, I do not praise becoming stuck as it relates to growth in wholesome qualities, let alone falling behind or declining in cultivating them. Well, let me continue before I elaborate on that. Therefore, bhikkhus, I only praise your continued growth in wholesome qualities, not you becoming stagnant or declining in them. This path of practice is all about continuation. Continuation here in this context means also progress, moving towards something, which is the opposite of being stagnant or idling away or being stuck. Sometimes we have these silent, invisible, but very present convictions deep in our psyche, in our way of thinking and doing things, where we convince ourselves that this is enough. This is good. This is good enough, what I'm doing. It could be in relation to dana, generosity, being open-handed in your generosity, or in your maintaining of sila. Sometimes people have a day off on their sila. It's like those people who do some type of a diet and they have a cheat day. They have a cheat day on their sila. Imagine that. But that's why the mind is so sneaky when it is drenched in ignorance, that is. So the person does not develop their wholesome, virtuous qualities. They're skillful. This is different. In Pali, it's kusala. Sometimes it's translated as wholesome, like I did here. Wholesome. But many times people confuse them with punya. Punya means merits. Merits, which they're just like, bonus points, things like that. But they do not take you to awakening. They do not bring you to purity. They're just like doing good deeds. Ultimately, we need to see what those deeds are doing for your mind. That is when they become skillful or unskillful. So here, looking at being stuck on the path has nothing to do with being skillful. In fact, it is unskillful. That's what Lord Buddha is saying. If you're not progressing, if you're not pushing yourself forward. And we're going to see in a few minutes the prompts that Lord Buddha gives us to dislodge us from our inertia, our state of heaviness when we get stuck in the ditch. And how, bhikkhus, can you decline in wholesome qualities as opposed to becoming stuck or growing in wholesome qualities? Here, bhikkhus, whatever the bhikkhu has developed within himself through faith, virtuous behavior, learning, generosity, and wisdom, while possessing direct knowledge and understanding, these qualities, however, neither remain in limbo nor does he grow in them. Bhikkhus, this is what I declare to be a decline in wholesome qualities, as opposed to becoming stuck or growing in them. In this manner, there is no growth taking place in wholesome qualities, as the bhikkhu is declining in them, not even becoming stuck. So ultimately, if you're not working towards building more skillful tools for yourself, which comes through efforting, ing, progressive tense. It involves work. It involves intentionality. It involves you wanting to not be stuck, not being satisfied with the status quo, or trying to play those old tunes of certain experiences you might have had because of a lovely thing that happened to you once. Let's say if it was a matter of generosity, a situation where you practiced sila and then you stood your ground and you said, no, I'm not going to engage in that activity or do that because I have sila to protect. But that was then. What has been happening since then? That's what Lord Buddha is saying. If nothing's been happening on your part in building more wholesome behavior, actions in your life, then guess what? You are declining, he's saying, and therefore not growing in this Dhamma and discipline, Dhamma Vinaya. And how, bhikkhus, can you get stuck in wholesome qualities as opposed to declining or growing in wholesome qualities? Here, bhikkhus, whatever the bhikkhu has developed within himself through faith, virtuous behavior, learning, generosity, and wisdom, while possessing direct knowledge and understanding, he neither declines nor grows in his wholesome qualities, because this is what I declare as becoming stuck in wholesome qualities, as opposed to declining or growing in them. In this manner, there is no growth taking place in wholesome qualities, as the bhikkhu is stuck, no longer moving forward or declining. So this is very similar to the previous one, but this person is just stuck. It's like the car that is on neutral. And if you've ever driven a car or been in one that is on neutral, you are subject to the outside situations, the circumstances. If you're simply idling away, you're subject to the dictates of what is outside of you, or the situations. When I say outside, not necessarily simply external factors compared to this body, which, let's say, it's the internal. No, it could be internally triggered as well. You might suddenly have a thought, a memory that triggers something in you that's still outside. That's what I mean. Because it triggered you, meaning you didn't have a say in it. You simply allowed things to happen to you. Unskillful behavior came about because you were not in charge. When I used to have a car and I used to drive, and every so often I used to have to take the car to get it washed. Sometimes I would wait for the whole year, like the summer to end and the winter to come, so that the rains would keep washing it. I didn't want to deal with that. As like I was simply using a car to go from point A to point B. I mean, I was already filling it up with gas and getting the, oil change done when it was telling me to. But otherwise, it was a chore. So whenever I would take the car to the car wash, the attendant would come and say, put it on idle. So I would put the car's transmission, or the automatic, on N, or neutral. And then he would say, pull your hands away from the steering wheel and take it off the brakes, and we'll do the rest. We will do the rest. When we are not in charge of what is happening, at least from our side, the responses to the situations outside, when we're just in a limbo, then the outside factors not only have a say in what the outcome will be of our behavior, but they will dictate our behavior. Just like the car, it would just go, the wheels would start moving and it would drive in these zigzagging things, and then the car is getting washed, the soap, the rinsing, this and that, the wipers. I would just sit there. It would feel very strange because the car is moving, and I would use that as an opportunity to see, and if there's some Dhamma I could extract from that experience. And there's always that. If we have the eyes, if we have sati and sampajanya to observe these things. So this would be very similar to being stuck, but unlike the car that comes out clean, you have no other option but to come out dirty. In this case, if you allow the mind to go idling away, being stuck in patterns, because remember, patterns are the reason why we get stuck. And this is why I was referring earlier to the inertia, that The Dhamma allows us, if we apply it, remember it's application based. The Dhamma is never simply adding learning, because learning is just data. It's not going to turn into learning. You're just adding more data, terms. And that's why majority of those individuals who believe that they are practicing or gaining understanding of the Dhamma without application are simply adding junk. Because it's inapplicable. The junk is inapplicable because you never gave it a time of day to bring it in to see how can I apply this Dhamma. Okay, Lord Buddha talks about the Four Noble Truths. Okay, how can I apply any part of it or the Eightfold Path to my life? And the evidence of that should come out as making my life be better, enhancing the quality of my life. That's another thing, right? That everyone talks about. Enhance the quality of your life. Buy this new car or get this better job. No, the Dhamma has to be pertinent to my unique situations and the circumstances that I find myself in. So how can I get myself out of the ditches of pain and suffering? And that's what I mean by taking the learning, in this case, the sutta, you're paying attention here, you're listening, you're present, you're listening to these discourses, but does it stay here or do you take some part of it with you? Re-listen to it. Take some notes later on and see, yeah, in this situation, I seem to be doing that. Okay, how can I change that? Change because I want to gain more, because I believe I'm not gaining anything out of that, or not as much. So this is a person who stopped having faith, even though they started with faith, sila, that's what Lord Buddha says, learning, generosity, and wisdom, but they put a cap on it. It has reached its glass ceiling, if you will, in the world of HR and employment. You have to break through that glass ceiling to go, because it gives you the hope that, yeah, there's other levels. No, it's a glass ceiling. It limits you. You're not allowing yourself to go beyond it. And how, bhikkhus, can you grow in wholesome qualities as opposed to declining or becoming stuck in wholesome qualities? Here, bhikkhus, whatever the bhikkhu has developed within himself through faith, virtuous behavior, learning, generosity, and wisdom, while possessing direct knowledge and understanding. That means it has to be, you have to viscerally experience it. You must know it. So you're not doing this for this Bhante or even Lord Buddha. You're not doing this for anyone. You're not doing this for your culture, your community, your temple, your whomever, your friends, to report to someone, or to write even in your journal. But to really viscerally, experientially taste something out of the Dhamma that you're practicing. He does not allow himself to become stuck, nor to decline in his wholesome qualities. Bhikkhus, this is what I declare as growth in wholesome qualities, as opposed to declining or becoming stuck in them. In this manner, there is growth taking place in wholesome qualities, as the bhikkhu is no longer stuck nor declining, but continuing to move forward. So you turn the N or the neutral, you put it on drive, or in some cases as sport mode, or some other gear, so that you can push and pull yourself out of that ditch. And sometimes we need to take some really drastic measures to pull ourselves out. Some teachers would, in the case of monastics, and also some serious students of the Dhamma, the teacher might give instructions such as going on a fast for 1 day or 2 days, depending on the health of the person, of course, or have the student sit for longer. This is something that happens with many meditators where, they say, well, Bhante, when he met me, he only gave me about 40 minutes or 30 minutes to sit. Yeah, I can sit nice. It's a breeze. Okay, but then he raised it to an hour. Yeah, but when was that? A year ago? 3 years ago? You shouldn't stop at 1 hour. If you're able to sit and right at the tail end of that 1 hour, when you're really feeling like the hindrances are now quiet, you got the hang of this. And it's remember, meditation is a knack. So you're able to, balance and know, because you're getting intimate with your mind, your heart, you're knowing yourself better. Right when you get to that sweet spot, guess what many people do? They get up. They stop the meditation. Yeah, okay, I did okay, check. I sat today. That's enough. That should count. Okay, I have another 23 hours for the next sit. This is a classic example of a person who is stuck. And when you ask them, yeah, Bhante, I'm sitting. Yeah, but really, are you? You're idling because your range has expanded. But you're not going the whole way, the whole distance. You're not doing that. Sometimes in a different context, when I was a therapist working with patients, I would give the example of a Ferrari. Imagine somebody gives you a brand new Ferrari from the dealership, and it can go to, I don't know, 250, 75 kilometers an hour. But guess how fast you're driving this car? 30 kilometers an hour. That is not why you get a Ferrari. This is, again, in the context of, there's a reason for this metaphor being used. When your range is expanding, just like the range of the machinery, the horsepower of such a very, very fast engine, car engine, actually, it's not designed for that narrow range. It's the wider range. So when a person, and this is something I'm stressing here for a reason, the importance, why it is necessary for us to pause and ask ourselves candidly, honestly, am I stuck? Am I fooling myself? Because on a daily basis, you need to feel, you need to experience the mind's range expanding daily. You need to go deeper in experiencing equanimity. You need to feel, if you're practicing the right path, if you're practicing what your teachers said, if you're going according to the teachings of Lord Buddha, then there's no way, and you're putting the effort and you're practicing sila, you're practicing your generosity, you're practicing your samadhi, therefore, then there needs to be the result of that. When there isn't, something is wrong. So at least to ask that question means you're coming out of that limbo, the being stuckness. So let's see what Lord Buddha adds to this. Therefore, bhikkhus, before training yourself to become able to penetrate and understand the hearts of others, first you must train yourself to become able to penetrate and understand your own heart. This is the right kind of practice. So this gives us, as you know, whenever I approach a sutta or I'm translating suttas, I always look at the contextual elements that are not seen usually when you first read it or skim through it. And life happens with context. It's never just black and white. There's also other elements aside from those factors. Your life is very contextual. It's highly nuanced. So what makes us think that the Dhamma is not, or the settings that brought these teachings about weren't? So here, Lord Buddha, you can see Lord Buddha is talking to bhikkhus, obviously, because he's addressing bhikkhus, but a specific group of bhikkhus, because he is now talking about the ability to see, pierce through the minds of others. Seeing mind with mind. That's sometimes how it's translated as well, but I like to call it penetrating and understanding the hearts of others. You know what's in the heart of another, even if they don't speak it, even if they're in the room with their back turned to you and your back is turned to them, you will still know them, what's happening, the presence that's in the room other than your own. So as your meditation develops, if you pursue that, you will be able to know the minds and the hearts of others. This is clearly stated. This is not something that was added later on. Absolutely not. Lord Buddha mentions this countless times. In all the Nikayas, you find this. But Lord Buddha is saying to these bhikkhus who apparently have been interested, that's where the reference comes in, because we didn't see any mention of this in the beginning portion of the sutta. Now we see. So he's saying, before you go ahead and want to penetrate the minds of others, you need to know and penetrate your own mind. Because Lord Buddha is talking to bhikkhus who are stuck. Hey, I'm a bhikkhu. I'm doing my pindapada. I shaved my head and I left my family life and I'm living the, pabbaja. So I should be advancing. Why am I not? So they're doing just enough, and expecting results. Lord Buddha is saying, that's not going to cut it. And he's going to give them an instruction. So, and how, bhikkhus, should you train yourself to become able to penetrate and understand your own heart? Bhikkhus, just like a woman or a man who is young and youthful, fond of wearing adornments, would take a clean mirror or pour water into a vessel and look at the reflection of their face in it. And if they were able, so basically in those days, mirrors were very expensive. Only rich people and royalty had those. And it was nowhere near what we have today. But the poor man's or poor woman's version of that would be filling up a bowl with, or a plate, something like that, a vessel with some water. And then you wait for it to not move or shake or ripple, create ripples, and you would look at your face and then leave the house. So, and if they were to see some dirt or blemish on it, they would quickly try their best to remove it. Interesting. So that's a glimpse to 26 centuries ago, how people were no different than us. Oh, is there a pimple? Is there something here on my, can you see this? Am I okay? Especially before a meeting or a Zoom meeting. Do my teeth go, look, do I have any piece of parsley in there stuck or something? People used to do that. So these are very lovely things that we see in the suttas that bring, they shouldn't be lost. That's why when I translate these, they need to come out, and I'm inviting you to look for these things so that you see relevancy with your own life. It's so important. And if they do not see any dirt or blemish on their face, they would be completely satisfied on account of it, as they consider to themselves, I'm so glad for being fortunate, since I am without any blemishes, seeing that my face is clean. Go and speak to any teenager when they're going through puberty, when there's all over so much stuff going on with their face. It is a nightmare. So the person says, I'm so fortunate that I don't have any blemishes. In the same manner, bhikkhus, self-examining as you check the level of your heart is crucial for the bhikkhu to grow in his wholesome qualities. Therefore, you should pause and check the quality of your heart by asking. So this is the list of criteria that Lord Buddha presents to do the checking. Remember, these are the things I was referring to earlier today when I said tools to dislodge us, to remove us, pull us out of our inertia, the ditch where we get stuck often. So you should pause and check the quality of your heart by asking these, he says. What are they? Is there greed and longing in my heart most of the time, or is there not? That's a powerful litmus test. Is there greed or lust, longing in my heart most of the time, or is there not? No one will know this as good as you will. Second, am I dwelling on angry thoughts most of the time, or am I not? Is there bitterness and resentment in me? Am I fuming with ill will, with thoughts of harm, harming someone else? Or, you did that, or he or she did that to me. So you're not, remember, you're not sticking out your finger of judgment at you either. You're simply asking the question, is there such a thing going on still in me? This is very important because you are now looking at the facts. This is where you go ahead and give yourself that candid, honest glance. You don't sugarcoat anything, at least to yourself now. So you're being honest. Third, have I overcome? No, excuse me. Am I overcome by drowsiness and boredom most of the time, or am I not? The best way to know that is when you're sitting. Are you falling asleep, or are you during the day when you're engaging in something, doing some important, supposedly something important? Ask yourself 5-10 minutes later, what was the topic of conversation? What were some of the words I was saying to that person? Can I recall them? And what was the highlight of that? If it's completely blank, guess who was not all there? Lord Buddha here is inviting us to have sati and sampajanya, mindfulness and full awareness. That's the invitation here. Now, when you maintain that throughout your day as best as you can, remember, all of us, we have to start somewhere. So often we have to start with baby steps. You need to be kind to yourself, not punish yourself, but at least put yourself back on track. Okay, I don't have sati. I get it. I was too drowsy. And when I'm sitting, I keep falling forward. Okay, fine. Let me sit upright. Let me sit with my back, even my head, the back of my head touching the wall. You have to try these experiments. And every time I don't feel the wall, I feel a separation, I know I'm drooping. So you create these images like, okay, what if there's something like I'm sitting at the edge of a cliff, an abyss. In fact, there is a meditation for monks. It's you sit at the edge of a cliff, as the namesake says. Why? These are monks that are really driven to create that powerful aditana, that power of determination, to muster up the sense of urgency. Hey, if I droop, the biggest individual chunk of the body is the head, the skull. If I droop, guess who's going to go and touch the abyss with his head? And there goes, and I better actually turn, I actually have to become an Arahant before I hit the ground. That level of urgency. So there is that. So you can create in your mind, okay, let me put myself into that position mentally. You're in your safety, you're in your home. Sit on the ground, it's okay. You can even put a pillow in front of you, okay? To ease the fall. And sometimes you can even make it more grotesque for you to see how foolish it is. How senseless is it for me? I mean, imagine your friend comes while you're sitting meditating and knocks on your door and says, hey, we're going to go to a party. We're going to go do this activity. What happens to that drowsiness? Does it go away? Usually it flies away. It didn't exist. Like, what happened? I was sitting for 30 minutes and I was like going like this. Oh, it's the end of the world. But then all of a sudden I get this call or my friend comes, hey, we have to go to this concert or we have to go do this. We're going to go to a picnic or a camping or we have to see that. Boom, it's gone. It's obliterated the drowsiness. What was that? So you see these games then. That's why Lord Buddha calls this a nivarana, a hindrance, an obstruction, a major obstacle. But you will never see it unless you're candidly looking at, okay, let's be honest here. That's what you're doing here. You're checking that, as they say, checks and balances. You're saying, well, how much am I really putting into this practice? Really, let's stop pretending, okay? This is my life. If I want something good to come out of the Dhamma, I have to meet it halfway. And that is all about executing, action-based, application-based, starting with these questions. Another question is, am I often restless, worrying about things most of the time, or am I not? We live in a world where this is the big sickness that we all suffer from. Restlessness, agitation. And so long as there is that agitation, Nibbana is so far from us. So if there is restlessness, that means the mind hasn't calmed down enough. Excuse me. Another one. Is the heart plagued by skeptical doubts most of the time, or is it not? Doubt about yourself, your path of practice, your understanding of the practice, your understanding of the Dhamma, the teacher, you deserving to gain the outcome that you're hoping for. That's a big one for most people. Most people don't want to really experience joy. Most people don't want to experience happiness. Deep down, when you dig deep in them, well, they do, let's say, hopefully, if they do it. I discovered this when I was a college professor. I mentioned this a few times in previous talks somewhere. When I was teaching a leadership class to college students, and they were all adults, and one of the students came by later on during my break, and she was all in tears, and she said, "You don't know what you're doing to me." And I said, "I'm sorry?" And she said, "I'm not ready for success. I'm not ready for attaining happiness, to be self-sufficient." And I said, "Tell me more." And then she started crying more, and she says, "Oh my Lord, I never thought I have been standing on my way, on my own path to really experiencing happiness and freedom. Freedom of, self-reliance. Tasting the joy of how it feels to become self-reliant and really see myself worthy of the success that I always imagined, but always over there, never something that could land into my life. So I obstruct that from happening. Many people do this, and you probably are one of them. When a person first comes to the path and wants to learn and study and practice, one of the things that, especially in the context of jhanas, let's say the first jhana, well, nowadays they're changing, the attitudes might be changing, which goes to the other extreme of trivializing it, that deep state of stillness that brings with it joy, tremendous joy. But I come from a generation of students who, for us, it was really like out there, it's impossible. That's what we were taught. Forget it. You as a layman, you will never attain those, jhanas things. So it was impossible to be happening to oneself. But nowadays, there might still be individuals who feel like that. So that has been one of the biggest hurdles for me to convince people that this is a natural state. When you are putting all the pieces together, you're doing everything right without changing anything, these things will happen. But when they do happen, please don't jump out of it and saying, this can't be happening. This can't be happening to me. Something is wrong. So the same thing with joy and happiness. So oftentimes we ignore the power, the destructive, in this case, power of doubt. So you can bring this and reinterpret this to fit your own sets of conditions in your life, the major hurdles that you're dealing with, the things that you long to have in your life, peace, state of calming forgiveness towards yourself, for example. But when it comes, how do you relate to that? Many people will shut the door on its face. If it's joy, if it's prosperity, if it's happiness, if it's harmony, acceptance of oneself. So doubt also can be defined as non-acceptance of yourself. You are flawed, basically. You saying that to yourself. Feeling undeserving of love, undeserving of happiness, undeserving of nibbana. That has to go. So long as there is that doubt, nibbana will not feel welcome in your heart. Okay? Another question to ask Lord Buddha is encouraging the bhikkhus is this: am I irritable and contentious most of the time, or am I not? Remember, you don't necessarily have to be these things to be asking yourself these questions. Even if you're not contentious, you're not irritable, to ask, to just kind of go into yourself and see if you are irritated. Somebody else in your shoes, would they have become irritated if they were met with these circumstances? But you didn't. So that means what? This is a healthy way of comparing and contrasting. Remember, Lord Buddha is encouraging these bhikkhus to develop and progress and not be stuck. So when you see that things have been shifting to the better, then you're progressing. There is development in wholesome qualities. Next, do I live with a corrupted and defiled heart most of the time, or do I not? Is it dirty in there, in my heart? Am I simply pretending? Or do I feel excited with joy when I see something wonderful happen to the neighbors? As if it's my joy. It's my thing that's happened that gave me that joy. No, it's not. But I saw that they finally got what they wanted and I feel blissed out. Do I feel like that in my heart? If you do, that's wonderful. Corrupted heart and that, they can't coexist. It takes a sublime, lovely, beautiful heart to feel that altruistic spiritual joy. Next, is my body agitated unable to be still most of the time, or is it still and unagitated? So you're asking now about the body, physically. Am I always moving? Which is a clear sign that there is restlessness, but most of the time we just try to squeeze restlessness, beat it into submission, as it were, and there's no way. It's like holding on to a dynamite exploding. It won't. The tighter your grip will be, the stronger and more powerful the explosive qualities of it. First, I have to understand, why is there agitation? Maybe your belt is too tight. Who knows? Maybe you're wearing the wrong clothing. Or maybe, deep at the bottom of your heart, you're still holding on to an encounter you had with someone. Someone said something to you that felt nasty, unfair, hurtful. You were undeserving of such a statement, such a comment. How could she say that? No, I have to be meditating. No, I have to be practicing Dhamma. I shouldn't be having this. So what do? You bottle it up. You push it deep inside. And you're like, yeah, it's gone. Yeah, I'm fine. Meanwhile, your left or right foot starts twitching. Your head starts moving this way and that. Out of the blue, your hand or fingers start to do something. The body will reflect the emotional states you're undergoing. The mind and the body are together. The heart and the body are together. It's a unit. You can't hide it from the body. So I have to first understand. Look at this. Yes, this happened. All you need to do is simply shift your focus towards that thing. Meaning, look at it. Yes, that was unfair. She did not have to say that. Okay, now I'm not going to sit and meditate on this, try to fix it, because obviously I'm just me. All I can do is create this space of tranquility and peace and silence within me to heal. But this thing was, it was so uncalled for. Why? She's okay, that happened. Let us do this. Let me put you in the closet or outside in the garden or outside in the car. And I promise after I come out of my meditation, we will address this. We will sit down and journal it. Or if you have time, journal this, about this, express it, your thoughts, this and that, and close the journal, close the book, put it away, and go back to your sitting. Okay? Don't bring corrupted states of mind with you to your cushion. It's too clean for that. Am I lazy most of the time, or am I determined with aroused effort most of the time? Do I make excuses to explain away my lack in sati or my lack in speech, even when I'm upset or angry? Am I aware that I'm upset or angry? That's still a good thing, because that means your sati is there, but the sankharas are so powerful that they're still slipping through. But it's not a lost cause, because sometimes that's what I tell students, because they really, come down hard on themselves and by judging themselves. So I have to say, okay, how did you know that you got angry? Well, I saw it. I was like, but how many people do you know who in that heated conversation, in that difficult situation, they are able to even remember what they said, how they said it? It requires a certain level of awareness, memory, sati. So it's not a lost cause. So next time I need you to be more more. So already you're gaining more confidence in your own inner goodness. Okay? Don't wait for the acknowledgement of your inner goodness to come from someone outside of you or society. It might never come. And he asks, am I distracted most of the time, or is the heart collected and stable most of the time? Has it reached a state of stability, collectedness, what Lord Buddha used the term samadhi for? Is it calm? Is it stilled? You can still be stilled in the mind while other things are happening. You're seeing the memories come up and down. That's why one of the key things, and Venerable Ananda also mentions this when he's asked, he says the five aggregates need to be seen as they're beginning and as they vanish. So the memories, for example, your touch, your contacts that you have to things, your feelings, instead of being sucked into the feeling, can you see the beginning point of the feeling, or at least grab hold of, just see, mark at the end, put a thumb tag on the last tail end of the feeling before it vanishes and a new feeling shows up. Any point of the feeling, can you just identify the feeling? Okay, forget about the beginning and the end point. Can you just see the feeling when it's happening? That is huge. Now, when you're able to do this, already you are becoming more and more stilled. And Lord Buddha continues, if the bhikkhu, while self-examining, sees that there is in fact greed or lust and longing in his heart, that he dwells on angry thoughts, how he is overcome by drowsiness and boredom, how he is often restless, worrying about things, that his heart is plagued by skeptical doubts, how he is irritable and contentious, how he lives with a corrupted and defiled heart, with an agitated body, unable to be still, while being lazy and distracted, without the ability to become collected or stable, then he should immediately put forth exceptional fervency, dedicated effort, zeal, determination, and unremitting energy, along with consistent mindfulness and clear comprehension, sati sampajanya, in order to abandon those evil and unwholesome qualities. So he says, you better get to work ASAP. The moment you notice that you're having these issues, the ones that Lord Buddha went over, the 10. And then he uses that metaphor again, the analogy of the mirror. Bhikkhus, just like someone whose head hairs and clothes had caught fire, would immediately put forth exceptional fervency, dedicated efforts, zeal, determination, and unremitting energy, along with consistent mindfulness and clear comprehension, in order to extinguish the fire blazing over his head and clothes. The Dhamma is not about getting diplomas in or certificates or of what you have learned, the things you've memorized but you never apply. This image, this metaphor that Lord Buddha uses here, has used it so many places, because it is a path of practice. It is a training. It's not about adding things and sitting there and, that's it, piling things up. These are not badges. What do? People have sometimes come and asked me, well, what is this thing about Buddhism? Like, what is Buddhism? Like, why do we need to, could you explain to me? Make it have, give me a good argument. Or they want to have a debate with you to prove to you they are right and you are wrong. And I bring it down to the nuts and bolts, just like Lord Buddha teaches us. Do you have suffering? I asked them, in your life. Do you have suffering? Basically bringing us back to those three things that Lord Buddha mentions. Is there birth? Because, many people will not understand that. Old age, yeah, they will relate to that. very quickly, especially if they're past middle age or if they're sick, no matter the age, and death. So these are undeniable. For the intellectual types, they will try to avoid the question completely. So here is the image of a person whose hair is on fire, whose clothing is on fire. Do you think they're going to have time to debate? That is the urgency that Lord Buddha is saying we should have. Nothing less than that. Now, the moment you bring this, you will sit upright. You will. Because everything is hanging from that, dependent on that. Every moment is your last moment. That is the attitude that Lord Buddha is encouraging, inspiring in these bhikkhus to have, and us. But if the bhikkhu, while examining, sees that there is in fact no greed, lust, or longing in his heart, that he does not dwell on angry thoughts, how he is neither overcome by drowsiness nor by boredom, how he is not restless nor worrying about things, that his heart is free from skeptical doubts, how he is neither irritable nor contentious, how he lives with a pure heart that is uncorrupted, living in an unagitated body that remains still, not being lazy nor distracted, and with the ability to become collected and stable, then, while being grounded on these wholesome states, he should further apply himself in order to destroy the mental contaminants, the asavas. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. He should continue further, Lord Buddha says. And here at the end, we also understand that he was not talking to Arahants. Because there's more work to be done. When your mind does not get agitated, that doesn't mean you become an Arahant, necessarily. Because there's other factors that have to be completed as well. So this is a path of practice. It involves work. It is gradual. Anupada, Lord Buddha calls it. Anupada. Gradually it happens. Step by step, layer by layer. But please do not underestimate the role of these gradual individual steps. Even the grains of sand might seem minuscule, might be insignificant in your estimates, but when you add enough of them, then you have a whole bag full of them that stops, the damaging hurricanes and the water that's flowing in, the rivers from over spilling, destroying entire towns and villages. Grains of sand. So you add all these. Every time you sit, every moment of sati is taking you closer and closer to Nibbana. This is not idle, empty words. Every moment of sati, every moment of sila, every moment of dana, when it is joined with sati and sampajanya, every such moments are taking you closer and closer to Nibbana. That's what we see Lord Buddha saying to us in every single one of these suttas. So I will pause here and see if there are any questions. And it's a lovely sutta, as you saw. It's I like its practicality, its pragmatic approach. It's already up on the website. So I recommend you print it out, and if you want, just to write down or copy that the section with the 10 questions, where you do a check-in. You check in with yourself. Like when a person is going through some type of a rehabilitation or going to therapy, one of the things that the therapist or coordinator would do would be to ask and check in with how has it been, or how have things been for such a person with their difficulties since the last session. This is something that I used to do as a therapist every single session I've ever had, to help the person know where they are, and to kind of, I was asking for them, facilitating, even if they have a difficulty, to ask these questions from themselves. So it's in a safe space, safe environment, no judgment. Remember, you need to ask these questions from yourself in a non-judgmental way, non-critical way. Because if the answer is not to your liking, remember, in the beginning of the sit today, I was saying you need to start from a place of acceptance of where you are. So similarly, yes, if my mind is always agitated, or I have doubts, okay, what can I do to reduce the agitation? Maybe I need to take a longer bath, or maybe I need to go do a bit of a walk outside or inside the house to prepare the mind for the sit. So that's another thing that I recommend to students who have these issues of, let's say, the agitation part, when they're sitting. Sometimes people have such a lofty goal in mind when they want to sit. And it's a lovely, lofty goal, but sometimes the body has its issues with that. Perhaps you've eaten too much, or too much spicy food, or for some reason the body is agitated, the mind is agitated, the heart is agitated. Okay, what can I do to kind of meet each one of those halfway and still practice? Lord Buddha presented 4 ways of applying satipatthana onto the body in the form of the 4 postures. So I can do it standing. Well, my knees hurt. Okay. My heels hurt. Okay. How about walking? Let's do a bit of walking. Back and forth. No rush. No rush. Okay, you do walking in your room or in the hallway somewhere. And suddenly, the mind's agitation gets reduced tremendously until it vanishes. And this is what they would also have for in traditional chankama walkways, if you want to call it, or the platform. They would have the chankama area, which would be anywhere from a walking meditation, chankama in Pali. It would be anywhere from 15, 20 feet to 60, depends on how long of an area you have. But near the end, or at the start, they would have a place to sit. Because when the mind calms down, the mind says, oh, please, let's sit down, let's sit down. Oh, I'm going deep. I need to go deep. I need to not move. But 5-10 minutes ago, you were highly agitated. You see, you didn't miss that opportunity. So what I'm encouraging you to do is not to leave the house, not to turn your back on the prospect of sitting simply because you were agitated. No, because there's agitation, that means there's an opportunity to learn something about yourself and how you can manage with that restlessness and agitation as you go back and forth and you do walking meditation. Suddenly the mind slows down and relaxes into equanimity. Beautiful, beautiful place to continue sitting. So find a place to sit and just allow things to happen as you maintain sati. So you see, we just picked on one of those questions and applied it into our daily life. So play with it, see how you can make it even more practical for your purposes. So I hope this helps. And are there any questions? I guess not. All right, so let us, in that case, transfer some merits. Akasatha chabumata deva naga mahidika punyantang anumoditva chirangara kantu loka sasanang. Akasatha chabumata deva naga mahidika punyantang anumoditva chirangara kantu desanang. Akasatha chabumata deva naga mahidika punyantang anumoditva chirang rakhantu mam paranti. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. May you all be well. May the blessings of the Triple Gem be with you. Blessings that are always there, so long as you ask. And you allow your heart's doors to open and be open to it. May you and your loved ones be protected. And there's no protection as good as your sila, because you taste the immediacy, the power of your virtue and how powerful it is to protect you and those around you. It's so immediate. May your progress continue. May you not get stuck. And if you do get stuck, Lord Buddha's 10 questions are very powerful to get you unstuck. Until next time. Sukhi Hot.